Hi, my name is Dick Mirgon, and I'm one of the vice presidents here at the Public Safety Broadband Technology Association. For those of you who have not heard of us, we are a public safety association that's dedicated exclusively to FirstNet and the FirstNet ecosystem. We do a number of forums, we do webinars, we do Facebook Live events like this. And the other day after one of our live events, we started this discussion offline about FirstNet and what it really means today in the COVID-19 environment. And I thought it was such a good discussion that I recorded it, and I'd like to play it for you now. So if you've been wondering about the value of FirstNet during these strange times of pandemic, this will give you a good insight to FirstNet and its value to first responders. Simply about how the network was failing with people and they couldn't get on. And all of a sudden people start going to FirstNet. I mean, that's exactly what it was built for.
Right.
Well, exactly.
Well, and if you look at comparing networks in what would have been maybe a pre-COVID and also maybe a in my case being in Salt Lake City, a pre-earthquake scenario, there's not a lot to compare there, right? The sun is shining, nothing's going on. You've got these two networks that are basically carrying a very doable load. Clearly, all of the competitors are built at least to carry what would be just a static load in a non-emergency situation. When FirstNet really rises to the top is when all of a sudden you've got decrease in your workforce, you've got all of these things happening in your community, setting up remote testing stations and so on and so forth for COVID, and then you throw a 5.7 earthquake on top of that like we had in Salt Lake City, it became apparent immediately who had the type of unbridled access to a network like FirstNet as opposed to some of our competitors.
Now you realize a 5.7 earthquake in Nevada is a bar fight.
I understand that, but for us, we had a pretty complex hazardous materials call out at the copper mine. We definitely had a collapse and masonry failure near the epicenter and also in downtown Salt Lake City, where we have a lot of load-bearing masonry structures. At that time, there's also a massive push to capture the situational awareness, right? Essentially triaging all of the various districts within the city and the county for that matter, because it was definitely a countywide event, which brings another point, right? It's a countywide event. Well, we've got, I think, about 11 or 12 different jurisdictions that have their own fire departments, and some have their own police departments that all needed to work together to grasp where the highest concentration of problems were, so those could be addressed first, where our biggest life safety issues were. So clearly, the influx of adoptions that are going on right now are representative of people looking at those other carrier phones and going, "Oh, I get it."
But I think that's the problem. I mean,
it goes back to what we were saying originally, what at&t FirstNet is all about, and that's reliability. And so now it's, with COVID-19, you can really see when you compare network against network that FirstNet's reliable. And they do exactly what they say they're going to do.
It's more than just the reliability, it's that priority and preemption. You don't notice it till you need it. And then when you need it, if you don't have it, you're toast. And that's what a lot of people found in New York City and some of these other hotspots where they can't use their cell phone, they can't do data, they can't tweet, they can't send images of their patients, and you get this big surge of people moving to FirstNet. The at&t had its earnings reports today, and this was their strongest quarter of adoption and growth within at&t were FirstNet subscribers, because people are finally understanding that when the world falls apart around you, those other networks aren't going to sustain your traffic, be able to give you the priority and preemption. I don't have time to call Verizon or T-Mobile and say, "Hey, I need priority and preemption." It's got to be on all the time, and people just don't get the difference.
Well, and to your point, Dick, you can call them all day long, but they don't have the direct 800 support line that the first responders and extended primary users of FirstNet have, that are responsive and specifically designated just for those individuals. So yeah, clearly. And the other thing that's really interesting about this for me is, we can show data and statistics of the work that we did at Times Square during New Year's and out in California during New Year's. I mean, clearly those are demonstrative of overtaxed networks where FirstNet is rising to the top. But here you've got this ubiquitous problem, right? I mean, not only is it coast to coast in this country, but it clearly is a global issue. But you've got this problem that is plaguing every nook and cranny of this country, that is allowing people in areas that probably never assumed that their network would even have a problem like what they're having. And so that firsthand experience, people finally being able to see this, and I'm not saying yay COVID, but what I am saying is we have an opportunity right now for people to see it firsthand, and there's nothing more poignant than that type of an experience. And that's why you're seeing the increase in adoptions for sure.
Well, yeah, if you don't learn from that lesson today, I mean, if this comes back worse in the fall than it is now, if there's another terrorist attack or another Katrina, we need to learn from this lesson now that FirstNet does make a difference, makes a big difference.
This is not the last problem we're going to have, where significant numbers of our citizenry are adversely impacted by either a natural or a man-made disaster. It's clearly, and that's why we have FirstNet in the first place, because we learned our lesson.
Because one of the issues in New York, where they brought in all these private ambulances that had no way to communicate, so they put them on FirstNet, they put them on enhanced push to talk so they could talk to each other. Again, another key example of how mutual aid can fall apart around you if you don't have the communications to talk. Because, and Martha, you see it in wildland fires, you can have a whole string of engines and ambulances sitting out there, but if you can't talk to them in tasking, it's of zero value.
Well, and then, eventually you can bring in some kind of a comms team that will be able to patch and integrate, but that is such a messy process as well. So
takes too long.
The whole idea of having this one network is the streamline, high speed, low drag, get the job done, get your people connected, get the resources you need, get your situational awareness, and mitigate. That's what we're trying to do. So yeah, those are emergency situations.
Excellent examples. I think New York City being the epicenter or the epicenter, with the the comfort there and the Javits Center. There's some good stories to be told.
And here's the other thing that concerns me. The Bay Area is so overdue for a major earthquake, or anywhere in California. We've had the small one in Utah. There was one in Oregon. Nevada had one here a few weeks ago, 6.8, 6.9. Idaho had them. Now, I've been to, as a former emergency manager, I've been to enough briefings where they've talked about, this is, it's kind of like listening to COVID experts. You get one expert up there standing going, oh, this is nothing but more than, the earth releasing pressure. And then the next expert stands up there and goes, no, this is a pre-quake. This is everything shifting. And once that shifts, something else will shift. So, for every expert, you can find a different opinion. But at some point, it's like 2018, 1970, 1918 Spanish flu. Now we have this again. There will be another major earthquake in California that's going to impact a whole lot of lives, and the communications network and interoperability.
Yeah, as we relieve the pressure in this Intermountain area, I can't help but wonder where the extra strain is being built. All I think about is that Yellowstone caldera, and I'm like, oh, dear Lord, help us.
Yeah, if that goes, we're probably all toast anyway. We're probably back to dinosaurs.
Well, yeah, it'll be like Pompeii all over again. We'll all be caught mid-stride. But just make it quick, please. But nonetheless, I think we're in a tremendous position right now with, being able to bring these narratives that we've been putting forward through the Public Safety Broadband Technologies forums and our webinars and all of the work that we've been doing in partnership with All Things FirstNet, continually trying to bring the FirstNet story to life to people. I think the fact that it's being brought to life for people in their own backyards and in the palm of their hands, essentially, is going to be so good for the network in general, because clearly the more people that are on it, the more robust the reinvestment process goes, the more robust the input and the feedback goes for making it, optimizing it day to day, right? And just allowing it to continually build and become this massive national asset that frankly other countries all over the world are trying to duplicate already. So
that's why it's special.
Yeah, so it's super important as first responders and extended primary users start leaning into the use, that we continue as an association to advocate for their optimization of that experience and continually get their feedback on what can we do to make it better.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point. You talk about other countries trying to replicate it. When you look at the regulatory structure over communications and public safety, even requiring multiple carriers to provide service doesn't solve the problem.
No.
People keep saying, well, we'll just interconnect the carriers. Can't do it. Doesn't solve the problem. We won't go into all the details about that because but the fact is, one network, one nation, public safety is networked to ensure that priority and preemption.
Yeah. No, totally. We did not want to replace one patchwork quilt for another. The continuity of the not only the oversight that the First Responders Network Authority provides, but also the continuity of having a single point of contact and development, and being able for us to develop these relationships, and the relationship between the authority and FirstNet built with at&t, there's no substitution for that. And so it's laser focused, either one.
Could be razor
on the mission, right?
It's
on
sharp.
The mission and on the outcomes. And so my opinion is, when you get too many involved and you're all trying to parse out this incredibly valuable network, it's inevitable that you suffer the tragedy of the commons because self-interest starts to prevail. Well, the self-interest for FirstNet built with at&t is to continually satisfy the terms of this contract. The terms of the contract have been developed to continually satisfy the needs of the end user and the first responder. So it's a great system, and it's a remarkable system. And I still continually like to applaud the bipartisan effort back there in 2012 to get it done. I think we need to talk about that more, to be honest with you. I tell my friends about how Congress got this pushed through and how it had to be a bipartisan effort, and they're stunned that, because most of us are a little frustrated with what appears to be congressional paralysis. And so this is a remarkable story, a remarkable national story.
I've got a new deck on the history of FirstNet. I've been meaning to put it into some sort of social media where I can push it out. I did it on a webinar here a few weeks ago, but it needs to be probably a little bit more interactive than what I had.
And I think the other thing that needs to be said more often is that the people on FirstNet, built by at&t, all of the employees and all of the different divisions and channels of at&t FirstNet are committed towards the greater good, and that you see that over and over and over again. And you could call in sick and not go to a tornado. You don't have to sleep on a gym and on a cot after so many years of your life, but yet over and over and over again, you see these people, these employees are doing it. And I don't think their story gets told enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I'll go one step further with that as well, Karl, because I think what is so remarkable about this effort, not only with the consultants that are being brought in through Next Paradigm, the Public Safety Broadband Technology Association, the First Responders Network Authority, and FirstNet built with at&t, the number of first responders that all of these entities have hired and brought in, so that it's not just an IT specialist trying to solve a public safety problem. These are public servants who are helping to solve and create this incredible tool to make it better for everybody. So people need to recognize that. I think another thing I hear often is, oh, the federal government and the giant corporation, yay, they're trying to take over communications for public safety. And clearly that is the farthest thing from the case. They are going to great lengths to get that insight and that experience right at the tip of the spear of building and providing this service. So I really applaud all of those entities, including our own, for doing what needs to be done to get that public safety influence continually.
Yeah, those stories
involved.
need to be told over and over.
So I hope you found that discussion useful and informative. There are a lot of carriers out there claiming they can do the same thing that FirstNet can do. There's a lot of people saying we don't need FirstNet. Well, the fact is, FirstNet is the only first responder network that was envisioned by first responders. It was advocated for. It's being built by first responders. Granted, you see the at&t name attached to it. at&t is the vendor who is building it for the FirstNet Authority. But this is a true dedicated public safety network with its own spectrum. There was a congressional report a number of years ago that talked about the billions of dollars spent on interoperability for public safety. And we have tried many things over the years. We have tried network to network. We've tried hybrids. It just doesn't work. This idea of a network to network connection is a false idea. It never has worked for public safety. It never will work for public safety. The only thing that will work to resolve interoperability, to resolve the fact that first responders need dedicated spectrum, and when they need it now, and the only way to deliver that is with their own network, and that is FirstNet. So, if you haven't tried FirstNet, I highly suggest you try it. It is your network, built by first responders for you to meet today's challenges and needs of first responders. Thank you.